Immortality is a concept that most of us can't really fathom, that one could truly live forever. Although this would seem like a blessing, it could quickly develop into a curse, watching everything and everyone you ever loved pass on, but you. Is it mere folklore, or can one truly discover the secret to defeating death? One such man, who was a European adventurer, has claimed to have done such a thing. He was born in the 1700s and was seen as late as the 1970s, with some believing his longevity reaching back to the time of Christ. Some of these claims seem far-fetched, but could there be more than meets the hourglass? This is the legend of such a man. This is the untold story of the Count of Saint-Germain. The man who first became known as Saint-Germain is speculated to have been born in Transylvania, although the exact date isn't known. Records kept have suggested it was on or around the year 1690, and many origin stories as to who he was and who he was born to vary. Some say he was an Alsatian Jew, one of Europe's oldest sects, whose true name was Simon Wolf, and was born in Strasbourg, Germany, close to the 1700s. Others, that he was born to an Italian princess in San-Germano in Savoy in 1710. But he himself would later claim to be the son of Francis II, the Prince of Transylvania. Although no record exists of this, it would certainly account for his wealth and fine education from an early age. Although it's hard to pinpoint exactly to who and where he was born, the Count would go on to be educated in Italy by the last Medicis, Gian Gaston. He was also believed to be a student of the University of Siena. Unraveling the web of folklore almost seems like a monumental task. Considering of what's recorded, the man himself spun a confusing web of differing stories and names, seemingly to disguise his true origin and name. However, what has been unanimously agreed upon is that Saint-Germain became a master in the mystical science known as alchemy. His main aim while conducting this alchemy was to achieve the ultimate goal of creating the elusive Philosopher's Stone, which would supposedly allow one to change lead into gold. Furthermore, the magical power of the stone could be extracted and placed in a potion, granting immortality to those who drank it. Count de Saint-Germain is believed to have discovered such a thing. He first came to prominence in high society in Europe in 1742. He spent 5 years in the Shah of Persia's court, where he had learned the jeweler's craft. This allowed him to court those of high society. He gifted the royals and rich of the upper class with vast amounts of beautiful jewelry, knowledge of science, history, music, and language. Gifts of knowledge at this time were considered divine. They were essentially priceless, esoterically speaking. He was said to speak many languages fluently. These included French, German, Dutch, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, English, Chinese, Latin, Arabic, and even some ancient Greek. It might have been his incredible intelligence that led to such acquaintances, but in 1760, we would see the notion put forth that Saint-Germain could perhaps be immortal. In Paris that year, the Countess von Giorgi, heard that Germain had arrived for a soirée at the home of Madame de Pompadour, mistress of King Louis XV of France. The aged countess was bestowed with curiosity. She had originally met the count in 1740 in Venice, and upon meeting her old friend again, she noticed he hadn't aged and initially thought that it might have been his father that she met in Venice. But it was indeed the very same man. Perplexed, she asked the count to detail their prior meeting, which he proceeded to divulge without missing a single detail. When the madame said that's simply not possible, the count simply smiled and said, "I am indeed very, very old." During his time in France, he would go on to become a trusted diplomat to King Louis, and would go on to perform secret missions for him in England. Seeming to be always present and active, the man who never aged became quite the adventurer. In 1760, he attended a function in Hague, where he met the infamous lover, Giacomo Casanova. Casanova later said this in regards to meeting him. This extraordinary man would say in an easy, assured manner that he was 300 years old, that he knew the secret of universal medicine, that he possessed mastery over nature, and that he could melt diamonds with it. Germain seemed to be everywhere. In 1762, he traveled to Russia, where it's said that he assisted in a conspiracy that would ultimately place Catherine the Great on the throne. As a result, he would later become a trusted advisor to the commander of the Imperial Russian armies during their war against Turkey, which they would go on to win. After returning to Europe, he would continue his trek. In 1774, he returned to France, where then King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette now occupied the throne. Through a series of conversations amid the count playing violin for the couple, something that he was well documented at being incredible at, like many things in his life, he warned them of the revolution that was going to come in 15 years. But his warnings were apparently unheeded. Louis and Marie Antoinette would go on to meet their fates via the cascading blade of the guillotine. He would then reappear in 1779 in Hamburg, Germany, where he befriended Prince Charles of Hesse Castle. Prince Charles also had a keen interest in mysticism and was a member of several secret societies. For the next 5 years, he lived as a guest within the prince's castle at Eckernfurt. Here he was provided with a laboratory for alchemical experiments and attempted to teach the prince what he knew. And for all intents and purposes, this is where Saint-Germain died on February 27, 1784. His death was recorded in the register of the St. Nikolai Church in Eckernfurt. He was then buried on March 2, 1784. His grave was there at the church's cemetery. Since no relatives could be found, the count's possessions were auctioned off shortly after by the mayor of the city. But surprisingly enough, his story would not end here. And for any mere mortal, this would be the end of a very interesting story, to say the least. However, the count would seemingly re-emerge not even a year after his supposed death. In 1785, Franz Anton Mesmer, the pioneer of mesmerism, which would later evolve into what we know as hypnotism, claimed to have seen the count and have received advice from him for the basis of hypnotism and personal magnetism. He claimed that initially, while seeking assistance in the development of mesmerism, received an anonymous letter to which he responded to. An unknown man then showed up on his doorstep in Vienna shortly after this correspondence. And after a 3-hour-long conference, the Count revealed his identity to Mesmer. The two then arranged a further meeting in Paris, although not much is known what was discussed there. Later that year, official Freemason records would go on to show that they chose the Count as an official representative for one of their conventions. After the taking of the Bastille during the French Revolution in 1789, the Comtesse d'Admar said that she had a lengthy conversation with Count de Saint-Germain, who allegedly told her of France's immediate future, as if he knew what was to come. In 1821, she wrote, "I have seen Saint-Germain again, each time to my amazement. I saw him with the Queen, the day following her death. I also saw him on the day following the death of the Duke of Enghien, and on the eve of the murder of the Duke of de Berry. The last time I saw him was in 1820, and each time he looked like a man no older than his mid-40s." After 1821, Saint-Germain may have taken on a new identity. In his memoirs, Albert Van Dam claimed to have met a man that bore a striking resemblance to that of the Count. He wrote, "He called himself Major Fraser. He lived alone and never alluded to having any family. Moreover, he was lavish with money, though the source of his fortune remained a mystery to everyone. He possessed marvelous knowledge of all countries in Europe at all periods. His memory was absolutely incredible, and curiously enough, he often gave his hearers to understand that he had acquired this learning elsewhere other than from books. Many is the time he told me, with a strange smile, and that he was certain he had known Nero, had spoken with Dante, and so on." Odd as always, the man known as Major Fraser disappeared shortly after, without a trace. It would be quite some time before this remarkable man made another reveal. Between 1880 and 1900, Saint-Germain's name once again became prominent. Members of a theosophical society, including the famed mystic Helena Blavatsky, claimed that he was still alive and was working on the spiritual development of the West. There is even a photo that was taken of Helena with the Count. Many have claimed it to be a fake, and it's hard to tell, but this is the photo. And another tale that bore his name, the famed French singer Emma Calve dedicated an autographed portrait of herself to Saint-Germain. Perhaps he was a fan. Headed into the 20th century, we now have the most recent appearance of a man that claimed to be the saint. The year was 1972. The city, Paris. A man named Richard Chanfray announced that he was the legendary Count. He appeared on French television, and to prove his claim, he turned lead into gold on a camp stove before the cameras. This would later be investigated by many magicians to find potential trickery, but nothing was ever uncovered. He attempted a magic career in 1973, starting in a Parisian theater, announcing himself as the man who transmutes lead into gold. Things, however, did not go according to plan. In 1976, he met the singer known as Dalida at the height of her fame. The two soon became infatuated. However, Richard soon grew paranoid. He often slept with a shotgun under his pillow and ended up shooting a man whom he found in his kitchen naked one night. The man fortunately was only superficially wounded and turned out to be the lover of one of the home's maids. Richard ended up doing a year in prison for the incident and was forced to pay 500,000 French francs in restitution. This incident marked the start of his decline. The couple soon ran out of money. Richard then attempted music, painting, and sculpture, all to no success. The couple would break things off in 1981. And unlike prior appearances of the supposed Count, Richard was last seen at a party in June of 1983. He was reportedly very thin, had white hair, and looked exhausted. He had prior to this met a woman by the name of Paula de Luce, which apparently was an alias as well. She claimed to be a millionaire and would help Richard with his financial woes. However, she too was heavily in debt. After a brief romance, the two would commit suicide together on the 14th of July, 1983. They ingested barbiturates while inhaling the exhaust of Richard's car. A nearby note read, "I leave, and I bring her with me because she is so like me." There have been brief mentions of the Count since this, but nothing substantial. So in conclusion, was the Count's identity stolen multiple times? Or was it the work of con man throughout the ages? Or just multiple cases of mistaken identity? Or did he even exist at all? All of these are certainly logical takes, no doubt. But could there really have been a man that unlocked the secrets of life and made himself immortal through alchemy, through the discovery of the elusive Philosopher's Stone, or something similar? Until when and if he shows himself again, I suppose we'll never truly know. But one thing is for certain: the legend of the Count of Saint-Germain is truly a strange mystery indeed. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this video a like and leave a comment of your thoughts down below. Don't forget to subscribe with notifications on if you haven't already. And if you'd like to support the channel, please consider checking out our YouTube membership program or our Patreon link down below. There, I'm slowly but surely uploading my entire library ad-free, along with other perks to keep you entertained. And as always, this has been Cody here at Mystery Archives. Stay safe out there, and take care.